NFL playoff football with Donnie RightSide, and we're going to cover these games a little bit more in depth. We're going to have a lot of fun with this because, man, there's a lot of information and a lot of confusion in what to bet, who to bet, and how to bet it on this one. So let's welcome in Donnie. How you doing, Donnie, tonight?
Doing good, man. Championship weekend. Season is winding down. Let's go out with a bang and make some people some money.
All right, let's get right into it. First game at 3:05, Green Bay, Atlanta. Atlanta's favored anywhere from 5.5 to 6 on most of the books. And got to say, Donnie, this is going to be a tough one. Green Bay comes in at 12-6. They're 5-4 in road games, and 27 points per game is the average. Average passing yards plays per rush, I should say, is 4.9. Passing yards 6.8 against the Atlanta team, who comes in at also 12-5. They're 6-3 at home, but they're averaging 35 points a game, 7.1 per play. So a little bit of an edge on offense there. However, Green Bay seems to be able to go toe-to-toe with most of these teams. That's why they're where they're at. But here was an interesting note. In dome games, Atlanta is 10-0 on the over. So, Donnie, what do you make of some of these statistics?
I mean, firepower. I mean, that's the product. That last, thing that you said with the over being 10-0, that's the product of absolute firepower. 2 all-pro caliber running backs in the backfield, a quarterback that's probably going to win the MVP, one of the best wide receivers, maybe when it's all said and done, to play the game in Julio Jones, right, and a nice complement of weapons, Mohamed Sanu, as well as Gabriel and a bunch of other quick guys out there on offense. I mean, they play fast, they play on turf, they play in a dome. It's always nice weather. And you're going to be going up again against Green Bay, who doesn't really bring much defense because their secondary is banged up, which is a recipe for disaster. If you look at both of these teams, I know it opened up at a 61, which is an all-time record. Ask yourself one question. Who's getting stops out there,
Right. That's a good point. Definitely. I mean, offensive statistics, Green Bay's averaging 270 yards a game and Atlanta 300. Total yards, or that's passing yards. Total yards, 373 for Green Bay and 416 for Atlanta. So they're definitely, putting up the numbers. And then you look at defensive statistics. For Green Bay, they're holding teams' total yards to 367. Okay, so almost as much as they're putting up, and Atlanta at 367 as well. So. There's, like you said, there's not much defense. It's firepower out there. However, turning to the defensive side, is there anybody out there who's going to stop Julio Jones?
There's nobody on Green Bay that can. I mean, they have a decent setup back there with Micah Hyde and Clinton Dix in the backfield, but other than that, they're so banged up at cornerback, and nobody matches up with Julio Jones anyway. I mean, Julio Jones ate Richard Sherman's lunch last week. I mean, that was fantastic to watch. But then again, he does it to everybody. It doesn't matter who you line up. You're going to have to double team him, but there's so many weapons on that Atlanta side there that there's nothing they can really do. If you take a look since the Philadelphia game, which is amazing, the Eagles, when they played, beat 24-15, the Eagles beat the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, look at the points they put up. 38, 28, 42, 41, 33, 38, and 36. Right. And that last week, 36, that was an easy 36 against a top 5 defense in the NFL. Green Bay is not that type of team. It's going to be interesting to see what the philosophies that are going to be brought to the table here, Tony, is what does Green Bay want to do? Because if you see Green Bay, last week against Dallas, they can eat you up any way they can. But if you go back a while back, we'll bring it back to another Philadelphia game where they started their 8-game run. It was mostly short passes, 5-6-yard outs, no pressure on the quarterback. They're fantastic at pass blocking, not so much at run blocking, but they don't even have a running back on the team. So it's really going to be on Aaron Rodgers, and I know we'll get into it a little bit later. Injuries are going to be a key in this football game.
Oh, absolutely. Green Bay did beat Philadelphia as well, 27-13. So, but. Yep. Here's, you mentioned the previous scores by Atlanta. Green Bay has put up 38-30, 38, 31, 38, and 34. So, it's, again, leaning towards that over. I guess if I'm a betting guy right now, I'm looking at the over versus a side.
Yeah, I mean, even before, Tony, I mean, these two teams matched up, same environment in the Dome, 33-32 final. I mean, you can see a lot of that coming down. It's just a matter of, the smartest man in the room typically is the odds maker.
Yeah.
Knowing how hot Green Bay is. That line is sitting at 6 points. Vegas doesn't make too many mistakes. Now, again, at this time of the year, I don't pay attention as much as who the public is actually wagering on, since there's only 1 or 2 games, and it is what it is. But that's got to be a leaning, to tell you how hot Green Bay is. When in the Dallas, arguably the best team in the NFC. The week before, a Giants team that was an immovable object. I mean, they couldn't score, but an immovable object on defense. They sliced them in the second half. The hottest quarterback play I've ever seen over the past 6 to 7 weeks is Aaron Rodgers. But again, you have to take that out of the equation. When you have Jordy Nelson, he's not going to play in that football game. If he does, one shot and he's out of the game. I don't know if anybody's out there. I've fractured a rib, and I could barely breathe for 2 weeks, let alone getting a couple ribs destroyed and then going and playing a football game. Whereas, you get one hit in that game. Geronimo Allison, I know he's a 4th and 5th wideout. He's not practicing, may not play. Randall Cobb, great game in the playoffs there, but he's still a little bit banged up. You're even looking at Devontae Adams on the last drive of the game last week, or the second to last drive versus Dallas. He hurt his ankle, barely practiced this week. I know it's Aaron Rodgers. I know what he can bring to the table, but you need some weapons out there to go along with it in these big-time games.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We mentioned injuries. Is there anything significant injury-wise for Atlanta that's going to give Aaron Rodgers a little bit of room?
It's good that you bring that up, Tony, because I've been watching all week, and especially in last week's game. Vic Beasley, one of the fastest pass rushers in the NFL. He's going to get his, and he's going to harass, and he's going to be on turf. That's going to help. Because the one thing that you noticed, Tony, watching last week with Green Bay, the one thing Dallas did lack is they had a pass rush, but they didn't have a speed pass rush. That guy that can beat his man one-on-one at the snap of the football to put pressure on the backside of Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have that. But a key injury popped up last week in that football game was Adrian Claiborne, the opposite side speed rusher at defensive end. He's not going to play in this football game due to a bicep injury, which is going to leave Dwight Freeney, who, not 2002 Dwight Freeney, 2017 Dwight Freeney, a little bit slower out there. That's going to be a key component on injuries. On the defense itself, Atlanta is not really a huge, when you think about we're going to lock you down on defense, but they do enough. Very good defensive scheme that they have that they brought over from Seattle. Again, Beasley is going to be the one that you're going to want to watch in this one to try to hold down Aaron Rodgers, but this isn't the type of I'm going to lock you down defense type of situation. What Atlanta does really well is they put pressure on you from the offensive side of the ball, saying you got to keep up with us. Aaron Rodgers can keep up with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, that was the one flaw in the Dallas game that the Dallas defense could not do. And then everybody knows this. You got to keep Aaron Rodgers from rolling out to his right. You got to contain him, make him throw from inside the pocket, and then he's going to make more mistakes. He's just not that inside the quarterback or inside the pocket type of guy. Now, if Atlanta, who's going to probably dial up some blitzes on him, can keep him in that pocket, then I think Atlanta has a little bit more chance on the defensive side to contain Aaron Rodgers, and then their dominant offense could probably win this game.
Because looking at it, the way you want to look at Green Bay on offense, again, a good pass rush doesn't beat Aaron Rodgers. And what I mean by that is if you have, good defensive tackle pressure up the middle, a couple good edge rushers, that's not what wins. What beats them is if you can beat them off the snap. Because if you've seen it last week, and you see it every time you watch Aaron Rodgers, he is a master manipulator in the pocket, meaning he'll take 2 steps up to set up a block, take 2 steps back, take 2 steps up, and he's sitting back there seemingly for 5 and 6 seconds in the pocket. You can't do that if you beat your man right off the snap. That's what's going to be extremely key in this one. And again, Green Bay, last week watching with Atlanta, Seattle is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They got pressure on Russell Wilson. They were able to eat him alive. Not going to happen this week. So, I mean, they got their work cut out from even with the injuries at wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers is going to have all day to throw just because that's how good his offensive line is at pass blocking.
Right. Well, I just was looking at some of the current bets out there right now. I see against the spread, 64%. This is from just one site. 64% of the spread against the spread bets are on the Green Bay Packers, 63% money line, and 65% on the over. And I think Vegas got it right with that over, because the public is going to tend to want to hit that anyway. So, right now that shows me there's a lot of indecisiveness overall as far as what's going to happen in this game. Which there are playoff games. That's what you expect, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at this game, usually in a Final Four type setting like we're going to have on Sunday, I have my mind pretty much made up when the Sunday line comes out the week before, pending on like a major injury. This is actually one of those football games, Tony, and I know what they're putting out there. Like Julio Jones sitting out the fourth quarter in there because of the foot injury. You knew right away that's a problem. He's limited at practice. They're going to tell you, I'm ready to rock, I'm ready to rock. If you've ever had a turf toe, which for the layman's terms means you have a sprained big toe, it's extremely painful. That's going to affect Julio Jones out there. Flip it over to the Packers. Look at the smoke screens they're putting out. NFL teams are the most tight-lipped, injury, worse than the president knowing about their health issues.
Yeah,
and you have Mike McCarthy out there this week saying, as early as yesterday and today, saying, hey, if this was a normal week, none of our wideouts that are hurt would even be playing. Are you kidding me? One of those games, Tony, where we're in the touting business of giving out picks and giving out information. Right. Sometimes it's best to wait to see who's actually in and out, because no matter what they say, oh boy, Jordy Nelson really progressed this week, they might already have it written off. He's not even playing, but you want the other team to think they're playing. Yeah. Same thing with Devontae Adams. Boy, I don't think he would even play if this is a regular game. Are you kidding me? Sometimes it's better to wait till Sunday in order to fire when you see that actual active report and you get Adam Schefter in your ear saying, hey, you know what? Yeah. Look at these teams. Boy, he looks really good. Devontae Adams looks fantastic warming up. Then it's a go, as opposed to, we haven't seen Devontae Adams in warm-ups yet. Then you might be in trouble.
That's so true. And they're definitely masters at playing it, and you don't know which way they're playing it. Okay, let's go to the 6:40 game, Pittsburgh at New England, and this is going to be really an interesting game. The line is at 6 and steady, and that should tell you something right there. And let's see, Pittsburgh road game 6-3, 352 yards, 5.7 yards per play, and New England is 7-2 at home. 27 points per game, 383 yards, 6 yards per play. A little bit of a difference there. But, Donnie, in my mind, this game comes down to defenses. You've got Pittsburgh, who's been, have their moments with the defense. And then New England, obviously, is pretty good. But you got Big Ben. Big Ben is always able to make things happen. He's a brute. He's a big guy. He's hard to bring down. But then you got him going up against a cerebral quarterback in Tom Brady. So Tom Brady makes things happen. Obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks to play and always makes things happen. That's why they're where they're at. So who do you side with on this?
Yeah, it's really interesting when this game breaks down, because, again, you have the same dilemma. You have an all-time Hall of Fame quarterback going in, Aaron Rodgers. You probably have the league MVP in Matt Ryan, who, if he goes on the same projectile, wins that game, wins the Super Bowl, he'll be in the Hall of Fame as well. Flip it over to this game. 2 first-ballot, surefire Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. So you have to almost pick your poison of what you're looking at. New England at home in the playoffs, damn near unbeatable. One of the hardest things to do with a healthy Tom Brady. Now, when you go back and you say, this isn't your father's Patriots, even though I get it, they keep winning. If you look at the quarterbacks they've beaten this year, the only one they really struggled with was Russell Wilson at home, and they lost that football game. So it's something like the Ryan Tannehills of the world, the Matt Moores of the world, the Fitzpatricks of the world. I mean, these are trash quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks coming in there for the majority of the season, which New England is beating on. Now, New England, what they have in their favor, obviously they have Tom Brady. I think they have the best offensive coordinator in the game in Josh McDaniel. I think they have one of the best defensive coordinators in Matt Patricia, and the overall best head coach overseeing everything in Bill Belichick. That's a huge knot in the cap. Haley is a decent offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but does moronic stuff. Runs the ball down the field. He's at the 3-yard line. He's going to throw 3 fade routes to Antonio Brown, who's 5'5", instead of handing off to Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers will do that. New England is not going to do that. So sometimes you want to take a look at coaching matchups and how they read and react in situations. The one thing I'm worried about, though, Tony, is on the New England side, again, is weapons. Danny Amendola, questionable,
Right.
been banged up all year. Dante Hightower, banged up all year, questionable. Brandon Bolden, key cornerback, running back, questionable. Jabal Sheard, Chris Hogan, who's really stepped up his game the last 7 to 8 games, hurt his thigh, might not even play in this one. And then late in the week, you see Martellus Bennett, knee injury, questionable, might not even play in this football game. Who is Tom Brady throwing to? It's just an amazing weekend to get caught up in.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. It's one of those tough situations. But I go back to October. New England went into Pittsburgh and beat them 27-16. So, you've got.
But you even have to take that out, though. That was without Big Ben, though. I mean, it's
that's
just
right. That's
yes.
right.
I mean, it's games that you like to look at and take a look at, but you say this doesn't make any sense one way or another. Like you could say, beginning of the season, Tom Brady was out 4 games. Oh, well, they beat Steelers there, but they didn't have Big Ben. It's going to be like, if you look at this game on its shell, New England is not going to be able to get a pass rush. They haven't pass rushed well all year. You need to pressure Big Ben. Now, will Big Ben make that pressure throw and, to Antonio Brown? Of course he will, but he is prone to make a little bit of mistakes. The one thing that we talked about before going on the show is Le'Veon Bell has to be your cornerstone here. Right. He has to be able to control this football game. It's hard enough to win on the road. It's almost damn near impossible to beat Tom Brady at home. But the reason why we cap these games is you don't have to win the football game. There is a 6-point line out there.
Yeah, that's right. And the total in that game is 50.5. So, if you're leaning towards a total and Le'Veon Bell, who has to be the cornerstone for Pittsburgh, gets that ball 25, 30 times in this game, that's going to bode toward the under as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, generally as a rule of thumb, the championship games are played a little bit more tight-lipped on both sides of the football, because once you get, let's just say, you go 14-0, it's no longer regular season mode, let's run this up. It's almost like you're playing a game of Madden for all the video gamers out there. You get a lead, what do? You take a little bit of that air out of the football, which is big in New England as it is already. So you're not going to press down and press your luck. Once you get a lead, you're going to look to just, as opposed to touchdowns, you're just looking to get first downs, and that's always something to play into. But again, looking at both of these games, let's just say they're both 6-6 on each side. Boy, it looks really, really easy to take those points. Just buyer beware on that. Yeah. Just know what you're looking at. And again, I pride myself on knowing every situation coming into a football game, and I'm still going to lose, 4 out of every 10 bets I make. You have to know what you're looking at in these certain situations. But a key thing, again, who's healthy and who's not, because they're not going to tell you, and don't believe a damn thing any one of these coaches says until you see it with your own eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Deflategate, because I read an article the other day. Of course, everybody knows Lady Gaga is performing at the halftime show.
On the roof.
They're on the roof. Yeah, she wanted to have them cut a hole in the roof so she could perform up there. And, of course, they said that's not going to happen. The other rumor that I heard, which I find very funny, is that she was going – of course, you remember the infamous meat suit that she wore. Well, this time it's rumored that she is going to wear a dress made of deflated footballs.
And that'll play real well with Roger, won't it?
Absolutely. So you never know what to expect. It's going to be an interesting show.
Yep.
I think that's why the non-football people definitely watch the Super Bowl, because it's just so very entertaining. But getting back to football, the numbers that I'm showing so far, 53% of the against the spread bets are on New England, 67% of the money line, and 55% on the over, which typically that's what you would see in these types of games. So let's go back to Green Bay, Atlanta. Donnie, if you're a betting man right now, where do you put your money?
Right now, I'm actually going to be putting my money. I would be putting my money on Atlanta, because if it's a different story, Tony, if they're coming in healthy, Green Bay at wide receiver, like Devontae, forget about everybody else. Let's go Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and Jordy Nelson all healthy. I'm taking the 6 points. But then again, that line isn't 6 points.
Right.
And it's hard to say you're going to bet against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers the way they've been playing. But don't sleep on Atlanta. I always lean towards the home teams in these situations. The hardest thing to get around if you're going to go against Green Bay, Tony, is not the fact that covering 6 points. It's the fact if Green Bay is down 10 with 3 minutes to go and Atlanta saying, score but take all the time you need. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to get an interception there. He's going to rip it right down the field. So right now I'm leaning towards Atlanta. That could change with a little bit of injury information. Jordy Nelson pops up. He's going to play. Oh, boy, Devontae Adams looks fantastic in the walk-around on Saturday. But, again, this is the hardest. I've been telling everybody, I told you as well, it's the hardest week of football for championship games that I've seen the cap in 25 years.
Wow. Okay, back over to Pittsburgh, New England. Right now, if you had to place your money, where would it be?
Give me Pittsburgh. Just give me the points. I mean, you have enough weapons on Pittsburgh to hang around and win this one. I know Tom Brady's sensational. I know the Steelers aren't fantastic on defense, but they do have some playmakers. And, again, the one side has the one elite player on the football field. I mean, Tom Brady's a great quarterback. He's unbelievable. Ben Roethlisberger might not be as good, but he's right up there with him. And I just look to see Le'Veon Bell, and I just see plays and controlling the line of scrimmage because you know Bill Belichick, he's going to want to take one thing away. If he's going to take Le'Veon Bell away, you're going to have Antonio Brown. They have two stars on offense. You can't take them both away.
And I know we talked briefly before the show, but what do you say about the rumor that Mike Tomlin is going to suspend Antonio Brown for this game?
If he suspends Antonio Brown for this game and they win, he'll get like a 7-year contract or maybe a lifetime contract in Pittsburgh for being a genius. If he benches Antonio Brown and they lose, he will be on the unemployment line as early as Monday morning. That's my thoughts on that one.
I agree. That's funny. So outright wins, you've got Atlanta, and then outright in the Pittsburgh-New England game, you're leaning towards?
I'm thinking Pittsburgh can pull this one off. You know, nice. I know they said the flu's been running through the Pittsburgh locker room, but that's not going to have too much of it. Yeah. I know Pittsburgh's been here before. Pittsburgh understands New England. I know they beat them already, but it was without Big Ben. I just see this game. Can you see it, Tony? 24-21, late fourth quarter. I can just see it. You know, yeah, I can see the cover there.
Sure. Okay, so that gives us a Super Bowl game between Atlanta and Pittsburgh, which is exactly the way I've been thinking it's going to go. I think it's going to be a surprise to a lot of people that Pittsburgh is going to upset New England. And Atlanta, I think, is just a little bit too much of a powerhouse to get Green Bay a chance there. So if we see Atlanta and Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl, how does that game shape up?
It's funny. I think, Tony, Pittsburgh matches up better with Atlanta than New England actually matches up with Atlanta. So if it turns out the way we think, Atlanta gets there and maybe Pittsburgh pulls off the upset, I'm going to lean towards Pittsburgh. For some reason, if New England wins, I think they match up very well with Atlanta. So I don't think they match up as well with Atlanta. I can see Atlanta actually winning the Super Bowl on that end. But I think Pittsburgh, with what they do and what Atlanta does, I think it'll work out well. And if Pittsburgh got to the Super Bowl, I certainly, with their leadership there. I mean, as much as I bag on Tomlin, they've been there, done that in the Super Bowl, 1-1. He's won one and lost one, and Atlanta hasn't been there, so I would lean towards the team with the experience there. New England style, I just think Atlanta would have too much firepower and be able to get after New England on offense and defense there, so that's the way I would lean in that respect.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and hope you guys all enjoy the games on Sunday, and, no matter what happens, it's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. But like Donnie said, it's really tough to cap these games. So just make sure you're very cautious on these games and get the good information. We can get that out there at trendbetting.com. And you can see Donnie over at DonnieRightSide.com. Okay. So that's it for our show tonight, guys. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Join us next week at 9. And maybe we'll run down the Super Bowl teams and see what's going to happen there, and hopefully we have some good information. So
yeah, we're throwing some prop bets next week too. It'll be fun.
Hey, there we go. That's a great idea. We'll count on that. Okay. So thanks for joining us here at Long Shots TV, guys. Take a shot with Long Shots, sponsored by TrendBetting.com, and remember, we are the game.